Again, fairly cheap. If you can do it at home in the shed, you can save a hell of a lot of costs to run the Barra in this. So all that, just accessories alone, 1,000 to 1,500 hours working on it. I built it all in the shed. Doing all the rust repair, all the paint and panel, all the fabrication, everything. And then project managing. So we're taking all that out. That's, yep, I'm not having to pay for that because I did it all. The total build cost. So up here at it's a big rock open lookout area. It used to be probably a trig point actually. In the Strathbogie State Forest. Just over there is Euroa. So on a clear day you could be able to see Euroa, but yeah, we've got the clouds parting over here now, which is great. Able to see a little bit of a view. So I thought I'd come up here and do a little bit of a rundown on Sandy. So yeah, drove Sandy up here this weekend. So up here on a boys trip with the Northern Rangers 4-wheel drive club, so our 4-wheel drive club. And I've wanted to do a video on how much it actually cost me to restore Sandy and build Sandy. So that's why I'm up here today. I thought I'd get away from the pack and that'll be nice and quiet up here, and sure enough it is. And the fog's sort of setting in. It's been setting in all weekend, but should hold out for us now. And yeah, we'll go through and I'll just explain how much this actually cost me, because I get a lot of questions on how much it actually cost me to restore. So yeah, stay tuned and we'll go through this. So under the engine bay, clearly it's not a 2F that it came with. So we've got a Barra, so a Ford out of a FG Falcon, Barra turbo, fairly common conversion these days. It's, you know, gone are the days where it used to be, you know, a very abnormal sort of conversion, very common four-wheel drives these days. So going through here, you know, obviously we've got the Barra donk. I put a new turbo in it, so it needed a new turbo internals. You know, custom manifold, so custom exhaust manifold, custom intake manifold. I built all the dump pipe, 3.5 inch dump pipe straight through with a cat, so it's got a high flow cat underneath the driver's seat effectively. 75 series radiator, so it's a 4-core brass radiator, so you need something that's going to be able to handle corrugations and, you know, all the hard work in the bush and that. So stuck with a brass radiator with that. Thermofan, electric thermofan, front mount intercooler, all the intercooler piping, everything like that. Got an Optima red top battery, which, yeah, is sort of half cold cranking amps and half sort of deep cycle, so it's a good balance between the two. What else have we got in here? So obviously the Barra goes through. It's got a ZF6 gearbox, so the 6-speed auto gearbox that comes from the Falcon. It's got a PJ's off-road adapter, so the back of that gearbox can then bolt up to an 80 series transfer case. Custom tail shafts. What else? Yeah, so basically everything under here, and I'll just get my phone out because I'll go through all of the conversion stuff. So just the engine conversion alone. So if I look at, I'll go in probably in the order of the most expensive to the least expensive. So my dyno tune, so the guys down at Max Performance, they dyno tuned it. I actually went there twice because that's how we knew the turbo wasn't that good. So the first time they spun it up and it only made like 7 pound a boost. So we went back a second time. So there was two runs, or effectively two tunes there. So that cost me 3.5 grand. The engineering and roadworthy, because I sort of put that as part of the engine conversions, chassis conversion and whatnot. So that cost me $2,600. The Dakota Digital Dash, which I'll talk to inside, and that. Intake plenum, fuel rail, extension harness, that was $1,600. The standalone loom and the FG sump is $1,370. Replacement turbo was $1,100. I just replaced the rotating assembly, and then there's just a whole heap. I've basically recorded every single dollar, and I won't go through all the dollars, but we just go through 3-inch stainless exhaust, 980cc injectors, so extra injectors, the front and rear tail shafts, a Barra canvas interpreter, so that's a little unit to be able to run your gauges and everything like that, so it reads off the Ford ECU. So a little Canberra interpreter, custom airbox. So this is a Demon Pro Parts airbox. It's for a ZD30, so it's a patrol box, but what it actually was, it was just a perfect position for it up the top here underneath the brake booster and that. So, and because I was able to rotate the front wherever I wanted it, it meant that I was able to get this nice 180-degree intercooler pipe straight into the turbo. So yeah, that was cool. What else we got? Raceworks fittings. So you might notice all the fuel lines are all braided stainless fuel lines. So they've all got the dash AN fittings and that as well. So there's a whole heap of dash fittings in here as well. So this is all part of the costs. Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator in there. All the stainless pipe to be able to create all of the exhaust. Steering shaft spline and base plate. So that's to adapt. That's probably more of actually that's not an engine conversion part. That's more of a chassis conversion part. So I'll talk about that later. Transmission oil cooler. So that's mounted at the back on the tray. Braided oil and water lines to the turbo, so there's a turbo kit there. Then there's the studs, so the mounting studs for all the manifolds, AC delete kit, catalytic converter, turbo beanie to keep it fairly cool, extension harnesses, fuel pump, so it's running a Bosch 044 fuel pump. I probably do need to put a surge tank in just so it quietens it down a little bit more. All the silicon bends, cruise control switches, which I haven't mounted yet. All the various Toyota brackets and fittings. So effectively all the fittings, I've got all these fittings in here and all different hoses and plugs and basically everything in there. And then this also includes, when I've sold the original FG intake, I've sold the original FG exhaust manifold, and I also sold a sump and that as well. So all said and done, the engine conversion, and this doesn't include the mounts, because I bought a chassis, so I bought the 80 series chassis, and it already had, from McKinnon's Cruisers, they'd already done basically the engine mounts, the body mounts for the 45 on the 80 series chassis and the cross member and that. So if you were to talk about conversion costs, that's all part of it as well, but just my pure conversion costs to run the Barra in this cost me $20,000. So when they say you can do a Barra conversion for under 10, they're probably not going to the extent that I went. So I just replaced everything. So I've got, brand new everything in that. So you can do it cheap, probably do it cheaper, but just my conversion costs, it totaled $20,547. So you might notice that there's a lot of accessories on this car. Now, again, do you need to go to the full extent of all the accessories put on it? No, you can get it away with it much cheaper than that. But I built this to go anywhere, be reliable, and be very, very capable on that. So spared no expense in making sure I had the right sort of stuff just as the fog rolls in again. So if the picture gets a bit dodgy, you know why. Right, so let's go through the costs of just the four-wheel drive accessory. So everything it would be that is like a bolt-on part. So if we think about the tyres, so I'm running, these are 35-inch so a 315/75/16 BFG mud terrains. I actually got a really good price on these. So these were $2.5 grand for 5, because 4 and a spare. I'm running TJM Pro lockers. So front and rear, they were $1,700 each installed. I've got a 168 litre Brown Davis fuel tank. So this was a fuel tank that was designed for an 80 series. So it's just bolts straight up, everything like that. So I've got a nice long range tank. So that was $1,400. The Warn Evo 10S winch, that was $1,300. I've got a 170 amp hour kick-ass AGM battery in the back, in the tray and that, to run all the accessories and that in the back. So that was $1,300. Then we talk about all of the suspension parts and everything like that. Right, so I won't go through these item by item, but we've got front and rear Dobinson. What are they? The can't remember what the MTR shocks. So they're the fully adjustable shocks, so I can adjust the damper settings and everything like that. So front and rear of those. Dobinson springs, so I'm running 3-inch springs. I probably need to change the springs. They're probably a little hard. So I've got 150 kilo preloaded springs in the front and 250 in the back. I reckon I could go back to a comfort spring in the front. There's not as much weight in the front of a 45 series as it is an 80 series, so probably need to sort that out a little bit better. So yeah, all the front and rear coils. Got a center console fridge, so a Brass Monkey 8 litre center console fridge. Upper control arms, lower control arms, freewheeling hubs, so brand new freewheeling hubs, 65 litre water tank, a DriveTech air compressor, so that's for my tyres, so I'll have that bolted into the canopy when I put the canopy on it. Adjustable pan hard rods, so all the basic suspension sort of things that you'd have when you lift. ARB air compressor to run the lockers, stabilizer bar links, winch thimble, extended brake lines, and then diff breather kits, anti-roll bar extensions, snorkel head, and then all the fillers. So I've got a water filler and a fuel filler that's into the side of the car. So all that, just accessories alone, you think about those big ticket items, they take a lot, but just accessories alone, $19,139. So that's what gets us to, all the cool places, good tires, good lift, lockers, good winch, right? You think about those big ticket items, but they can be taken off and put on another car as well. So yeah, $19,139 in four-wheel drive accessories. So now we're going to talk about fabrication. So this is all the, I guess, the steel part of the car. So we're talking about the front guards, the tray, the sliders. So they're sort of sliders that I wanted to keep them looking like, a stock standard FJ. So tube guards, steel for the tray and the sliders, brake booster spacer, various bolts and bolts for the bull bar, everything like that. So this is one of the cheapest parts of the build. This was really simple. So just for the steel alone, all the fabrication, everything like that, we're looking at $4,795. So pretty stock standard stuff. When it came to paint and panel, so what did I buy in here? So there was obviously paint, so top coat, undercoat, epoxy coat, sound deadener kit, sandblasting, any rust repair panels. So I had the rust repair panel in the front bib. I had rust repair panels on the doors. So the bottom of the doors were rust repair panels. And then yeah, all the chassis black, etch primers, everything like that. Again, fairly cheap. If you can do it at home in the shed, you can save a hell of a lot of costs. So for me, just paint and panel alone, was $3,448. So that's not too bad. Then I'll talk about restoration costs. So things about to make it look like an FJ again. So I'm talking about all the little badges and all the little, mirrors, and I've replaced the roof. So the roof that it came with was a fiberglass roof. So I've put a steel roof on. So the whole cab is all steel. So replacement roof, the seats. So once we go into the interior, I'll show you the seats and everything like that. They're basically a Falcon seat that's been sort of rebodied. Full windows, so these new, I've got rid of the quarter window because all the thing was all rusted out and that. So quarter windows gone, so full windows. LED headlights, so the steady LED headlights. Then what else we got? I had to buy these new aprons. So these had rusted out, so end up just buying new ones instead of repairing the old ones because they were fairly cheap. All the weather strips, LED tail lights, seat belts, all rubber kits. So every single, so we're talking, roof seal, windscreen seal, windscreen front seal, all these seals, all the door seals, all the rear window seals. Basically went to town and bought every new seal, so there's all new rubber in the whole car. Molded carpet, so again that's on the interior. Heat shield, had to buy a new windscreen because the windscreen was cracked on it. Carpet, seals, and then mud flaps, so all the mud flaps, everything like that. Window regulators, bought new window regulators because they were all flogged out. The weather strip adhesive, a horn, new bonnet latches, so all the new bonnet latches, the indicators, all the parts I guess you would get to make it a 45, right? So bearing in mind, the car that I bought, I started with a really complete car. So a lot of the issues when you're restoring these old things is trying to find bits and pieces. It might be like little, hazard switch knobs or something like that. This car had a lot, so I didn't have to replace much at all, which was really good. But even saying that, the dearest one was the roof. So the replacement steel roof was $625. The seats were $1,650. But that was, turn up with nothing, leave with the seats that you see there. So that was pretty cool. And then, just a whole heap of little stuff. So I call it the restoration costs came to a total of $7,226. So, that was the restoration costs. So then, probably the last thing I'll talk about before I go inside is the servicing costs. So again, these are the things that you may or may not do depending on how you're doing your restorations, everything like that. I always have gone with the whole thing of, if you're restoring a car, just put new stuff on it. Like, I know when Dad used to restore cars, he'd use the existing brake calipers and the existing brake rotors and stuff like that. No. So I did have to repair. So when the lockers were getting put in, I did have to repair the front pinion and crown wheel that it had flogged out. So that was a big cost. That was $1,393. But new radiator, new brake calipers for the rear because they were all rusted out. Brake proportioning valve, front and rear discs, new master cylinder, new brake lines at the caliper, new wheel bearings, a new heater tap, swivel hub rebuild kits, brake pads front and rear, Lanox, so underneath it's all Lanoxed, just for that extra bit of protection against the salt and the mud and stuff. New brake booster, coolant, tail shaft bolts, oil, coolant, all bushes that needed to be replaced, You know, even small things like wiper blades, they all add up. Brake lines, fuel filters, etc., etc., etc. Right? So there's a whole lot of seals and everything like that that's been done. So just the servicing costs alone came to a total, bearing in mind I had that repair on the front diff, but that came to a total of $5,405. So just the servicing costs. So I guess you're starting to sort of see that it's not a cheap build. Now, I'll go inside and we'll have a look inside, and then I'll finish it off and we'll do a grand total. Yeah, my favourite part of the car, obviously. What I tried to do was I tried to keep it as stock looking as possible, you know, but obviously, you know, things like the Dakota Digital Dash makes things, keep an eye on the engines, on the engine and what it's doing and everything like that. Where the ashtray was, you know, that's my spot for the lockers and the center diff lock and everything like that. But yeah, sort of modern trims, but you know, keeping it as original as possible. Now I've probably covered most of the costs of everything in here, you know, either in the engine conversion or in the restoration costs, everything like that. I'm just looking through here. There's not too much. Maybe a headlight switch, the fuse panel, so got rid of the glass fuse panel and put a wedge fuse panel in, make it more modern. Even little touches like the little shifting instructions placard on the glove box, you know, that's there's a mob in Sydney that does them, so they yeah, it's an auto one with a 80 series transfer, so that's pretty cool. But effectively the big ticket items now, so the last thing on my screen is the big ticket items. So as I mentioned when we were talking about the engine conversion stuff, I bought an 80 series chassis that had already had the conversion done. So it was basically a rolling chassis, and it had the original block in it, so it was out of a territory. So it had the block, all the you know, the bolt-on manifolds, everything like that, the ECU, all the engine mounts had been done, the cross member, the PJ's adapter, and all the body mounts. So I was pretty lucky to pick that up. It basically shortcutted the entire process, and it probably, in the end, it probably saved a bit of cost in that as well. So that alone, so just the rolling chassis with everything on it, was 10.5 grand. Now I sold the original block that was on it and put an FG block on it, but kept all the rest of the parts and everything. So I'm running just a standard Ford ECU, and so yeah, so that's that. I then went and bought the original body. So I was really lucky. There was a guy, yeah, in Gembrook, and he had it on the farm and everything like that. And as I said, it was complete. Like it needed work. Like there was a lot of rust in it and that, but it was complete. That's always the hardest bit. Anyway, I bought that for 3.5 grand from him, and effectively all I did was it was a 2F. It even still ran. Like I basically took the cab off and everything in it, and I just had the rolling chassis, and I ended up selling that for $900. So in the end, you know, it only cost me, you know, what, $2,600. But then I sold all, like, the bonnet liner, and I sold the fiberglass roof, I sold the guards and everything like that. So in the end, it only cost me 12 grand, right, to get a rolling chassis with all the conversion stuff done, and then a cab that I can use to be able to do all the restoration on it. So let's now add all this up. So we've got, if we go back to all of the costs. So if I go, the 4-wheel drive accessories cost me $19,139. the conversion costs. So bearing in mind that this was already, the engine conversion had been done already, but now this was all the accessories and I guess modernizing it and making it more of a weapon to me. So that in itself was $20,547. Bearing in mind that includes the Dakota Digital Dash. Now the Dakota Digital Dash, again, is one of those ones that most guys that do their conversions these days, they're using the Haltech dashes, and much cheaper. But in wanting to keep everything looking original, I wanted to make sure that I had the surround and everything like that. So $2.5 grand and a 6-month wait for it to be built directly from the States. Was it worth it? I think so, because I think it looks cool. But so that's included in that $20,000 for conversion costs. Then we go to fabrication. So again, all the steel and everything like that, $4,795. Paint and panel, $3,448. Restoration costs, $7,226. And then finally servicing costs, $5,405. And then finally the vehicle purchase stuff, $12,110. So in total, taking out all of the time that I spent, and I probably easily spent 1,000 to 1,500 hours working on it. I built it all in the shed. Doing all the rust repair, all the paint and panel, all the fabrication, everything. And then project managing. So we're taking all that out. That's, yep, I'm not having to pay for that because I did it all. The total build cost, $72,673. So you might be thinking, wow, that is a lot of money. And it bloody is. So I built it to do the tough tracks. How long it's going to take me to do the tough tracks is debatable, because when you put a lot of money into it and a lot of time into it as well, you sort of don't want to destroy it on the first trip. But I built it so it's reliable, it's capable, and it turns heads doing it. So yeah, could you do it cheaper? Yeah, you could go half of the accessories, half of the custom stuff that I built into the engine, things like that. Yeah, you could do it, maybe for half the price. But yeah, I tend to think, do it right, do it once, do it right, and it should put you in good stead. So anyway, that's how much it cost me to build my Barra 4080 series. So now all that's left to do is get off this lookout and go and enjoy it.